ko'y kaltucho ko. Ni ko'y stako. Ni ko'y kilakasta po. Ni ko'y kimakanin. Ni kilagan. Ni kintaken. Ni kinkingkan. Ni kimustalek. Ni kinsalakwat. Ni kimakasanan. Ni papa. Ni takatsanahwa. Ni gilinin. Chu kintatlin, nyakshniku kitenir.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you for participating in our event, Resilient Food System, Indigenous Youth Solutions in Times of COVID-19 Pandemic. I welcome all of you, especially IPAF partners who are participating today with us. IPAF, the Indigenous Peoples Assistance Facility, is an innovative funding instrument that Indigenous communities can use to find solutions to the challenges they face. The objective of this facility is to strengthen Indigenous peoples' communities and their organizations. It finances small projects that foster self-driven development. IPAF supports projects designed and implemented by Indigenous peoples' communities and their organizations through small grants ranging from $20,000 up to $50,000 US for a maximum duration of 2 years. It supports projects that build on Indigenous peoples' culture, identity, knowledge, and natural resources. In response to 5 IPAF calls until now, since the adoption of the policy of engagement with Indigenous peoples that at IFAD have supported Indigenous communities and organizations in 90 countries. And we have received more than 4,200 proposals. We have not been able to answer to all of these proposals. With available resources, 159 projects have been financed in more than 45 countries for a total of $5.1 million US. Out of these projects, 50% of the 120,000 beneficiaries have been women. Currently, there are 32 ongoing projects, and today we will have the opportunity to hear from one project in Argentina, one in India, and from the regional coordinator of IPAF in Africa, who will give us an overview of the 11 projects that are being currently implemented in the African regions. So we will start with the partner from the Mapuche Cajun community in Argentina that's implementing the project Diversification of Family Nutrition through Self-Production of Food. Eileen Uribe, a young Indigenous Mapuche, will be sharing with us what are the main challenges food systems face in their community that they are addressing through the project and how this project has been helpful during the COVID-19 crisis. Aileen, puedes participar.
Somos la comunidad mapuche Cayún. Estamos implementando el proyecto Diversificar la alimentación familiar a través de la autoproducción de alimentos, el cual es financiado con recursos de IFAD. A continuación presentaremos algunos de nuestros beneficiarios.
Buenas tardes, estamos acá con Rosa, una de los pobladores que fue beneficiaria del invernadero. Es una de las pobladoras que tiene mucha más experiencia con el tema de huerta.
Voy a mostrar lo que pude sembrar esta temporada, lo que se dio.
Acelga nos queda mucho porque la vendí, lechuga igual, pimiento, tomate. ¿Qué te gusta, Feli, de acá? Contá.
Los tomates y las zanahorias.
¿En qué te ayudó a vos a obtener otro invernadero?
Me ayudó en la forma para poder llegar a vender también, porque vendí mucho, antes de la fiesta vendí mucho. Fue un dinero que es una ayuda.
¿Y huertas siempre hace?
Siempre hago, cuando, sí, pero todos los años. No da la fuerza y el tiempo.
¿La primera vez que tiene invernadero?
La primera vez. Sí,
Pero,
sí.
¿y por qué no había podido tener un invernadero antes?
Sí, porque por el tema de, como le digo, que cosas que es difícil de conseguirlo.
Maimari Confuche, Pinche Cayún Doralizado de soy pobladora e integrante de la comunidad mapuche Cayún. Actualmente me estoy dedicando a la producción y a la cría de gallinas ponedoras. Este fue un emprendimiento más que nada personal y ahora con el proyecto de huerta y granja voy a tener la posibilidad de adquirir más gallinas ponedoras y a través del proyecto un gallinero para aumentar la producción. Muy agradecida principalmente a la gestión de la comisión directiva de la LONCO, de nuestra LONCO, Visa Cayún, y bueno, Aileen, la coordinadora que llevó adelante el proyecto, con la ayuda de la chica con Julia, compañera de Parques Nacionales, y Fernanda del INTA. Así que muy agradecida, porque gracias a la gestión, muchas cosas, o sea, los invernaderos y lo que es ahora la construcción que se viene, la construcción de gallineros, no hubiera sido posible. Y obviamente gracias al FIMI por habernos financiado el proyecto a nuestra comunidad. Así que gracias.
A continuación el PowerPoint lo va a presentar Aileen Uribe, quien es integrante de la comunidad, es parte de la comisión directiva y se está desempeñando como promotora dentro del proyecto.
Aileen, ¿puedes hablar ahora?
Sí, ahora sí.
Perfecto.
Cuando quieras, Carla.
Un segundito. Listo, ¿puedes verla, Aileen?
Sí.
Ok.
Bueno, Mar Pupeñi, Puñaña, Pulamien. Bueno, este es un saludo en mi lenguaje, en el lenguaje mapuche, el mapuzugún. Primero que nada quería agradecerles a todos ustedes por invitarnos a esta conferencia. Para nosotros es una alegría muy grande poder mostrar lo que venimos trabajando en nuestro territorio. Bienvenidos a nuestro territorio, a Los Cayún. Como verán, ahí tienen los contactos para quienes desean conocer un poquito más de nosotros. Siguiente, por favor. Bueno, primero que nada quiero contarles un poquito de nuestra cultura. Nosotros, bueno, así como cada pueblo indígena tiene sus tradiciones, sus ceremonias, nosotros también hacemos dos que son muy importantes para nosotros. uno que se llama el Guiñol Chupantu y el otro es el Guillipún. Ahora yo voy a hablar sobre el Guiñol Chupantu, que significa, traducir al español, es el Año Nuevo Mapuche. Bueno, este evento se realiza el 24 de junio todos los años y la comunidad un día antes se reúne para poder esperar todos juntos el inicio del Año Nuevo Mapuche. A la madrugada, tipo 5 de la mañana del 24, nos dirigimos al río para poder beber del agua del río y poder bañarnos también. Eso es porque dicen que al ser la noche más larga del año, las aguas se ponen benditas. La participación de los niños, como verán en la imagen, es importante, ya que a través de esta ceremonia nuestros ancestros, o sea, nuestros mayores, nos transmiten su sabiduría. Siguiente, por favor. Bueno, ahora voy a hablar sobre los tejidos y las plantas medicinales que hacemos nosotros. Bueno, estos tejidos que verán ahí en las imágenes están hechos de lana, de oveja. La lana tiene diferentes procesos por el cual llega a verse así de diferentes colores. Obviamente todo es teñido, todo procesado naturalmente, teñidos con plantas del lugar. Bueno, las plantas medicinales, lo que verán ahí en la imagen, es un ungüento, un tónico que le hicimos nosotros, que lo utilizamos para poder, cuando tenemos dolor de cabeza, dolor de músculo, dolor de cuerpo, lo frotamos y con eso se nos calma. Ese ungüento está hecho con diferentes plantas del lugar. Nuestros abuelos también nos contaron y nos dijeron que cada planta medicinal o cada ungüento que queramos hacer tiene que ir acompañado siempre en este caso, del tejido hecho por nosotros, algún cultrum, algún instrumento, para que el trabajo tenga como una conexión más a nuestra cultura. Siguiente, por favor. Bueno, ahora voy a hablar sobre el alimento típico del pueblo mapuche, que no va a faltar en ningún lugar, que es el piñón y el muyay. El muyay es una bebida que se hace con trigo y jugo de fruta seca. El muyay nosotros lo utilizamos para las ceremonias como ofrenda cuando comenzamos a hacer el ruego. Al igual que el piñón, también es de la misma manera, lo utilizamos como ofrenda cuando hacemos nuestro ruego en nuestra ceremonia. Y si bien se puede hacer diferentes comidas, tanto con el mudai como el piñón, se puede hacer alfajores, se pueden hacer comidas calientes, se puede hacer como postre también, o reemplazarlo en la comida como una legumbre. Siguiente, por favor. Bueno, ahora voy a hablar sobre el proyecto. El proyecto tiene como finalidad la elaboración de alimentos con productos de la huerta, además de poder ¿cómo se dice? Aumentar o diversificar la producción de hortalizas y la cría segura de aves de corral. Además, poder también fortalecer los vínculos, los saberes vinculados a la labranza, a la producción y a la elaboración de alimentos desde la identidad territorial mapuche. Siguiente, por favor. Bueno, nosotros como comunidad hemos encontrado diferentes retos dentro de la comunidad que estamos trabajando. La falta de trabajo, tenemos un clima muy riguroso, tenemos que los jóvenes emigran a las ciudades, fomentamos la generación de compromisos comunitarios y la pérdida de saberes ancestrales que se van perdiendo de generación en generación. Siguiente, por favor. Bueno, estos son los resultados que hemos tenido hasta el momento. Hemos construido 22 invernaderos, estamos próximos a construir 21 gallineros. Si bien desde un inicio eran 15, nosotros pudimos ampliar y poder llegar a más familias de la comunidad. Se realizaron entregas de semillas de diferentes tipos, entrega de aves de corrales, y todo esto fue gracias a las diferentes capacitaciones que se dieron a lo largo del proyecto dentro del territorio de la comunidad. Siguiente, por favor. ¿Cómo ayudamos nosotros en tiempo de pandemia? Con la autorización de FIME y FIDA, que nos autorizaron a utilizar el uso del 10% del proyecto, nosotros destinamos esos fondos para la compra de forraje para los animales y animales de granja, o sea, el ganado y animales de granja, debido a que nosotros estábamos atravesando el invierno bastante crudo y nosotros preferimos invertir esos fondos para ayudar a los animales. Siguiente, por favor. Bueno, como verán, ahí ese es el invernadero, el último que armamos, que fue construido en la escuela de nuestro territorio. La verdad que fue un trabajo muy lindo y estamos muy agradecidos el poder participar y el poder ser parte de FIMI. Y nada, muchas gracias. No sé si tienen alguna pregunta o algo.
Muchas gracias, Aileen, por su presentación. Esta ronda de proyectos están siendo implementados con una participación activa de las juventudes. O sea, una de las líneas del llamado de esta última ronda de proyectos de IPAF fue para potenciar la participación de las juventudes. Y nos alegra muchísimo ver la participación de jóvenes en este proyecto. Para las personas que tienen preguntas y comentarios, quiero destacar que tenemos aquí también participando a Johannis Amador del Foro Internacional de Mujeres Indígenas, que es la organización que administra y le da seguimiento a los proyectos en América Latina y el Caribe. Entonces, si después quieren hacer preguntas, también Johannis podrá colaborar. Now I will invite our friends from Pragati, IPAF partner implementing the project Empowering Tribal Youth for Nutritional Food Security and Income Enhancement in Koraput district of South Odisha. And they will be sharing, we see that there is a group of participants, and they will be sharing what are the good practices in the IPA-funded project that contributed in strengthening the indigenous food system in their communities. So Pragati and our friends, please go ahead and share your information.
Youth are the backbone of the country, but the rural youth are not inclined to agriculture, which is a threat to future food security. Pragati Koraput and Koraput Jilla Banbasi Sangha, with support of IFAD IPAF, is implementing a pilot project for empowering youth in agriculture for nutritional food security. Through trainings, exposures, intergenerational exchange of knowledge, and critical input supports, the youth are now involved in crop production in their family farms.
मो जमी पानी एत सुविधा नथिला प्रगति तरफ डीबीआई पानी भी एबे सुविधा अछि आ प्रगति तरफ मोर प्याज एडा मंजी जाक हाफ रेट रे दिया हला आ एडा सब जाक लगेइछु आ ए मका जाक भी आमे लगेइछु आ
ସିଆଡ଼େ ଧନିଆ ପତ୍ର ବି ଲଗେଇଛୁ।
ମୁଁ ପ୍ରଥମ ଥର ଏ ଚାଷ କରୁଛି ପନିପରିବା ପ୍ରଗତି ତରଫରୁ ଆମକୁ ଦେଇଛନ୍ତି ବିହନ ଯାକ ଆଗକୁ ଆହୁରି ଭଲ ହେଲେ ଆହୁରି କରିବି ବୋଲି ଭାବୁଛି।
The traditional food crops like millets, tuber crops, pulses are being revived. The indigenous seeds are conserved and replicated. Organization of youth into producer groups have built solidarity. The youth groups are supporting the elders in conservation of biodiversity and resources. During the time of COVID-19 pandemic, the youth volunteered to action to support their communities. There is further need of development of infrastructures, increase access of youth to information, resources, technology, and develop youth entrepreneurship in agriculture and allied sectors for their dignified livelihoods.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. Can you just switch on the presentation? Share the presentation.
Yeah.
Good evening from India. So this is Pragati, and we are thankful to IFAD for giving us the opportunity to share our experiences on behalf of the indigenous youth of Koraput district. So we are starting this project since September 2019, and the project is implemented in southern Odisha in Koraput district. It covers 44 villages, and we have a target to reach out to 1,000 youth beneficiaries in the project. So it focuses on enhancing the skills of youth on sustainable agriculture and system of crop intensification, and organizing the youth into producer groups. Kindly switch on to next slide, please. Yeah. And these are the three objectives we are focusing on, like enhancing skills of rural youth on system of crop intensification and organic practices, and improving their availability of nutritious food among the target households, and increase the collective bargaining power of youth producer groups. Next, please. Yeah. So this is the context where we started. So we saw that youth do not find agriculture as a remunerative source of livelihood, and we had a baseline. So we identified that almost 40% of youth are school dropouts, and 75% households are food insecure for 3 to 6 months, and the average land holding is 1.56 hectare per household, and 3% of households are landless. And landlessness is caused due to several factors like displacement and different development infrastructures. Then only 7.9% of lands have access to irrigation. So majority of the lands, or the major part of lands, are dependent on the monsoon for agriculture. And there is vulnerability to climate change. Like we see, there are disasters like drought and flash floods, and the youth do not have any opportunity to get employment within the localities. So most of the youth, they migrate out. So we had a baseline that 13% of youth are regular migrants, and 29% are seasonal migrants who migrate after the harvest of the rain-fed crops. And most of these regions, they lead to the involvement of youth in different antisocial activities, and they have started becoming a burden on the family. So when the COVID-19 struck, so it was a major disaster for the rural areas, because a large number of youth who had migrated to different places, they came back, and there was a pressure in the family. They are idle, and it resulted in household food insecurity. And also, like we say, that there was due to lack of mobility, they could not move out to buy inputs and market their produces. So these are the major context when we intervene. So the major interventions we had under the project. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah. So we trained the youth. So it was 530 youth were trained on different leadership skills and also different crop practices like system of rice and millet intensification and organic farming. We provided them exposure to different immersion sites so that they could see and learn different good practices in sustainable agriculture. And also we distributed them inputs as an immediate measure so that they adopt agriculture like seeds, planting materials, organic manure kits, and small farm equipments. Then we established 2 seed banks for conservation of indigenous seeds. So mostly we collected paddy, millets, and pulses which are available in the localities. And as a part of COVID-19 response, we distributed food rations to the returning migrants and also supported them to avail different kinds of social safety nets like public distribution system and the free kitchen services, which has immediate response to the COVID-19 crisis. So the major achievements, next slide please. So you see these are some of the major achievements we have till now. So 512 youth were the young farmers. They are involved in agriculture because it was the agriculture season when they came back. So they got involved in agriculture for 135 days, which was the Kharif period of the cropping season here. So they adopted different practices like system of rice and millet intensification. So we see that it enhanced the production by 60 to 80% by adopting these new technologies in agriculture. So due to this increase in production, they could address the household consumption needs for 10 to 12 months. So which was a major achievement in the project. And also due to the surplus generated, they could sell their produces in the government support prices which is provided by the government. So they could sell their millets at minimum support price. And also they have started adopting crop diversity, which is a indigenous practice. Like they adopt different diverse crops like millets, pulses, tuber crops, which is a part of their food system, which ensures their nutrition and also the food basket. And also like the youth are back into the farming, so we have provided them linkage like irrigation, solar irrigation system. So 126 youth, they have started getting involved in agriculture and they have earned more than 10,000, 15,000 per on an average. Then these 2 indigenous seed banks which have a collection of indigenous seeds, we feel that these indigenous seeds are resilient to climate change and also they can cater to the need of farmers immediately and reduce their external dependency. The youth are now organized in the village level and also through linkage with the farmer producer companies, they are getting access to irrigation like renewable energy, solar energy for irrigation is installed into villages. And also as a part of providing employment to the youth, we had linkage with the government program, flagship program that is called the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Scheme during COVID-19. So they got employment on an average of 50 to 60 days and also they could earn average of 12,266 rupees, which was a very positive impact on the youth as they could get immediate, satisfy their immediate needs at that moment. Next slide, please. So this was the strategy we adopted. So immediately after the project approval of the project, we shared the project and budget with all the stakeholders, including Panchayat Raj representatives, the government line departments, and also the People's Association. So the project is implemented through the Koraput Jilla Banvasi Sangha, which is the Indigenous Peoples Association, and organization of youth is one of the major strategies under the project, which builds solidarity among youth for giving them a platform to come together and revive their traditional knowledge systems. And also the revival of nutritional production systems with crop diversity and with new technologies, it has helped the for the success of the project. Yes. Next slide, please. So these are some of the snapshots of the program, like how youth are engaged either in agriculture, supporting their parents in different agriculture activities. So these are millets, rice, pulses. Next, please. Next slide, please. So this is system of rice intensification. So we see that it has increased their productivity and also reduced their drudgery in weeding all these activities. So now it is getting replicated among the youth. Next one. So these are pulses and maize. Next one. Tuber crops, like we had different kinds of tuber crops which are already in the indigenous food system. So they are again reviving those tuber crops. Next one. Next one. So these are vegetables. Next one, please. So these are the best practices we saw in the video, the story of these two young girls. One is a returning migrant, so she settled into agriculture and supporting her family. Next one. Next one we saw in the video, that is one of the tribal young girls. So she is organizing, doing herself. She is also educating other young boys and girls to revive their indigenous food systems. Next one. So these are the challenges we see. Like one of the major challenges, there is no record of rights over land. So the record of rights still remains with their grandparents. So the youth do not have the land rights. So it is one of the demotivating factors when they try to go to agriculture. Then we see that more than 90% of rents are land fed. So which is a major drawback, and which is a block when they try to get into agriculture, because there is no irrigation. So most of the time, around 6 months of the year, most of the lands remain fallow. Then there is land alienation is a big issue due to micro irrigation projects, communication and other development activities. The tribal people are getting displaced of their lands, the agricultural land, and also from their villages. Then lack of livelihood opportunity, which leads to distress migration, and also youth are getting diverted to different kinds of antisocial activities. So these are some of the recommendations we have identified during the process of implementation of the project. Like we see that traditional knowledge systems are not properly documented. So this needs to be documented for dissemination among the youth, and revival and conservation of indigenous seeds through seed banks, either at community level or in centralized places, which could enable them to adapt to climate change and also reduce their external dependency. Then allocation of resources for retention of youth in agriculture. So there is highly there is need that the youth should be attracted to agriculture, like providing them with small farm equipments, introducing farm mechanization, increasing their access to inputs, information, and also technology, which will reduce their drudgery and also increase their efficiency in agriculture. And development of eco-friendly irrigation infrastructures. When you talk of irrigation, like solar irrigation and tapping the natural existing water resources for irrigation. So these kind of supports are required. Then creation of infrastructures for agri and allied enterprises among youth. So it is there is lot of potential among the youth, and creation of these infrastructures and supporting them, enhancing their skills in agriculture and allied enterprises will retain them in these sectors, and which will ultimately contribute to food security and strengthening the food systems. Then there is need of building a network of protection of resource rights of the tribal people. So because they do not have the access to land, access to forest. So at the own level, at the community level, they cannot access these rights. So there is need of building a network so that they can demand their rights and access their rights, and it will just enable this youth to have a dignified kind of living. Next, please. Yes. So here we come to the end of the presentation. So this was a learning about the food system and how the youth are coming back to agriculture and contributing in small ways, and also there is need of further strengthening these systems. Thank you.
Thank you to Bragati presentation, and we also have Ruby Espanola from Tepteba, that is the organization in Asia and Pacific that is managing the funds of IPAF in that area. We will now have Jackie Macaria presentation. And Jackie we will hear from her the perspective of the regional level in the context of Africa. The Samburu Women Trust is the organization in Africa. So Jackie, you have the floor.
Thank you, Myrna. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Let me take this opportunity to acknowledge our IPAF partner from Africa, Ghana. They were supposed to present, but they've been having connectivity issues. So I have the opportunity to hopefully represent them the best, but I think I'm also really glad to see the other IPAF projects in the different regions and the amazing work that they're doing. I think it's exciting, and I'm hoping that we can be able to share some of that work that you're doing with some of our IPAF projects in Africa. So I'll begin my presentation. If I can have the slides, please. Next slide. So in Africa, we were able to fund a total of 11 IPAF projects, 6 in Anglophone countries and 5 from Francophone countries. We have dubbed this cycle the cycle of resilience, because despite the COVID challenges that most of our regions experienced last year, Africa was, I guess, because we're not as affected as many of the other parts of the world. Many of our projects were able to continue with their work and were able to complete some of the activities, achieving some substantive results. We targeted about 565 men and 595 women and about 765 youth. Next slide, please. So just a few statistics which we are proud of in this project is that we had, of the 11 projects, 8 of them were women-led organizations. And recently, one of the organizations also got their executive director appointed as a young person. So we're really proud of that project. And one of the projects is actually a youth-led project. It's the project that was going to present this afternoon from Ghana. It's led by a young person. So we're really excited about those statistics. And additionally, we were able to secure some more funds for the projects, amounting to about $210,000 in addition to what had been secured by the IPAF. Next slide, please. So I want to share a few of the results from some of the projects under different components. Under food security and nutrition, the IPAF project in Congo, which was implemented by Indigenous Women Association of Congo, ADFAC, harvested in their first crop 3.5 tons of maize that had been used to boost household food security, improve their nutrition by sifting the maize to flour and mixing it with other foods such as peanuts, soybeans, and cassava. And this was used to prepare porridge and other meals, improving their nutritional output at household level. The IPAF project in Cameroon, implemented by Cameroonian Living Earth Foundation, FCTV, reintroduced the farming of wild yams among the Baka community of Payo. They went further to hire a young agronomist to conduct 25 lab tests on what the nutritional components were in these wild yams. So these tests were quite a number and had several parameters, so we will not discuss them today, but I will have my contacts. I'll leave my contacts at the end of this presentation in case anyone has questions or would like additional details. We are also partnering with Samburu Women Trust is partnering with FCTV to publish some of these results in a local journal. And one of the things we're really proud of is that because of this project, these wild yam projects, their project was aired in one of the local TV stations in Cameroon. Next slide, please. Under the component on land and territories and resources, our IPAF projects in the Republic of Congo, Democratic Republic of Congo, Tanzania, and Ghana have secured a total of 21,667 hectares of land for indigenous communities. In addition, the IPAF project in Tanzania got further secured 900 acres for the Akio community, who are a hunter-gatherer community in Tanzania, securing about 3 certificate of customary right of occupancy titles. So that was quite an achievement. Next slide, please. Under climate change and mitigation, our project in Cameroon, implemented by African Indigenous Women Organization, worked to help prevent environmental degradation through destruction of forests by supporting women with 230 energy efficient clay cooking stoves and 300 fireless cooking bags. These energy efficient clay stoves and fireless cooking bags were made by the indigenous women themselves. The project in the Democratic Republic of Congo, implemented by Pillar for Vulnerable Active Women in DR Congo, PIFEVA, have reforested 350 hectares of community forests with indigenous tree species. These community forests were completely degraded due to the cutting down of trees for charcoal. And these trees were also host to edible caterpillars, which are a delicacy of the pygmy communities in the region called Mwenga. So by reforesting these areas, they also brought about the restoration of biodiversity loss in about 7 blocks of community forest. Next slide, please. Under access to markets, our IPAF project in Kenya, implemented by Common Vision for Equitable and Sustainable Development, COVISCODE, have set up a community cooperative society called the Ogiek of Kapchebororo Cooperative Society. They've been able to brand their own honey and have trained the communities on costing and financial management. They've also partnered and they've also received in-kind support from the county government of Elgeyo Marakwet for additional training on marketing and extension services for their beekeeping project. And then the IPAF project in DR Congo, implemented by Action for Promotion of Vulnerable People, APROPEV, have to date produced 220 liters of honey, which have been sold at about $5 per liter, bringing a total of about $1,100. And for a community that makes less than $5 a month, this is a significant amount that has never actually been seen in that community. And their plan is that after expenses, they can earmark the profits to solve a problem on clean water access. So these are some of the few results from the projects. I want to share just a few of the skills, next slide, that were secured by many of the young people in all of the, across the 11 projects. These skills include masonry, apiculture, and one of our really exciting projects is in Ghana, where they were able to build a poultry innovation center, which will be a training center to help indigenous youth engage in poultry farming. So for us, this is such a high sustainability potential project in terms of various aspects, including markets and all that. So that's the project I was going to present today. It's unfortunate that you were not able to be privy to that, but I hope we'll get another opportunity to present that. And then one of the other skills is that the young people have been able to gain is building modern beehives and installing them, harvesting, packaging, branding. You've had the women from Cameroon who are doing the energy cooking stoves. We've had skills in marketing. And also for our own partners, what we did is at the beginning of the project, we were able to do trainings on how to develop a theory of change, which they're now using for project management, monitoring, and even additional resource mobilization. So these are some of the skills that were gained by the IPAF projects during this cycle, and we continue to anticipate results as the projects near an end. And with that, thank you for your attention. If you have any questions, my contacts will be in the next slide and you can be able to get in touch with me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jackie. We are so proud from IPAF board of the accomplishment of the projects. I will now I would like to give the floor to the Swedish International Development Cooperation Agency, who will be happy to share with you as our new partner for the next IPAF cycle. So please go ahead.
Thanks a lot. Said Mats Åberg from Sida Stockholm. Good day to all of you. And I see that we are running somewhat late in the program, so I'm going to do my utmost to do this presentation succinct and short. Thus, on COVID-19, which is part of the title of the session we have had, I will just say that we have had illustrating examples given in the presentation on how COVID is affecting population, indigenous population, youth population, and the measures that are taken to try to deal with the situation. And then also, as we talk about the indigenous people here, then we have also got some examples from Argentina, from India, and from Africa in general, but within the focus that we should have had from Ghana on why there is a need to give further protection to the use of land resources, natural resources for these groups, and then especially included then women with their many burdens in the informal economy and as caregivers. On the presentation, I think they were very good, very interesting to listen into what the IPAF has been able to achieve together with the communities. In the Argentine, we saw this greenhouse with the enthusiasm and also the hen production, etc., etc. Also, we saw some about the Midsummer Eve celebration, something that we know about in Sweden as well, but with other connotations. Then we went to India, and I think what we heard there on youth and the difficulties in encouraging youth to stay in the rural areas and in the agriculture sector is something that we do recognize from many parts, or rather most parts of the world, doesn't make the situation less difficult to deal with, but will give us possibilities in exchanging good experiences. And there also in the Koraput district, we heard about the seeds production, which was very interesting, encouraging, and the other INGOs working on this. We have got a program, WeSida, with Oxfam working on nutritious underutilized species, and often then in context where we have got indigenous populations. Another thing that has been highlighted, and that's very important to us, is the role of biodiversity in the context of indigenous populations, and the way that you have been cultivating for hundreds and hundreds of years, and also connects back to the pandemic now that we have had, and the importance to work together to reduce the vulnerability to future zoonotic diseases, also help mitigate climate change, etc., etc. And what was just said here is that Sweden, through SIDA, is now a proud partner of the IPAF, the facility, and we really believe that there is crucial work to be supported through this facility, and we have heard some good examples just here. And also in this cooperation, there is a mechanism for indigenous organizations to more easy find climate funding, for example, through the Green Climate Fund, which we also hope can be a good tool, a good path, and we thus hope that other partners will join in to share the participation around the EPAF. And as you might be all aware of, then upcoming this year we have got the Food System Summit with the preparations going on. And there SIDA has also done a contribution where we have a focus then on the smallholder farmers, fishers, herders, with then their focus on women's organization, indigenous peoples, etc., to facilitate the consultation process to those often most marginalized groups. So with this, I should not take more of our precious time to be able to listen to some questions and discussions before we need to close. So thanks a lot, very interesting, and good luck with the coming rounds in the IFAP. Thanks.
Thank you very much for your comments, your inputs, and thank you for partnering with IPAF for our next cycle. That is great news. I would like to acknowledge that we have the presence of Stephen Potter from Canada, who is the executive director in the IFAD executive board. Mr. Potter, I don't know if you would like to say some comments or if you have any question.
Yeah, thanks very much. These were fascinating presentations, and I would like to extend greetings to the people who've participated from across the world. This is a fascinating opportunity for connections between indigenous peoples and projects across IFAD's reach. I think that's a demonstration of how impactful IFAD can be through the IPAF and through its other programming to really reach all corners of the world. So I'd like to thank you for that. Like Sweden, we also place a high value on the knowledge and practices of indigenous peoples who have so much to bring to us as we seek to become more balanced in the way that we live in this world and produce food. And IFAD and IPAF are really a great opportunity to redress that balance and support indigenous peoples in their agricultural endeavors. I do have a question. As I was watching the presentations, it got me to thinking many of the interventions involve providing seeds or providing machinery or inputs, and I would like to hear from IFAF about the pathway to sustainability in these interventions, and if you have any lessons learned or if you have any kind of best practices that you're developing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your question. I would like to open the floor if there are some additional questions. In terms of time, I would like to listen to 2 or 3 questions and then we make a round of remarks to close. I don't see.
I see Antonella Cordone, Mirna.
Yes, Antonella, please go ahead. Yeah.
Thank you, Mirna, and congratulations for this event. Is really a joy for me, who is with you and other indigenous leaders had to fight to establish the facility at IFAD, and congratulations to Sweden for joining hands. And let me also highlight the support that Canada is also providing to the nutrition team. And now we have 2 indigenous interns at IFAD who have just started. So slowly and joining hands and having alliances, there is a lot we can do. I have one question and one proposal. And the question relates to the funds and the new call for proposals that will be issued, and whether already the IPAF board is thinking on how to go ahead, whether you will finance for sure more organization. But there was a strong request in the past by indigenous peoples organizations and the communities behind them requesting to increase the ceilings of grants, and whether these will be taken into account for the next call for proposals. And the suggestion relates to how best we can continue supporting already those who have initiated their projects thanks to the seed money of the IPAF, and how to better, network them. Also with other programs such as the slow food, the participatory certification of their products, the protocol that they themselves as indigenous peoples, communities and organizations could come up on the quality of the food they produce, the nutritious seeds and crops they're using, as well as the value of these foods in terms of environment, in terms of community bonding, in terms of economic opportunities for indigenous youth, which are bringing forward the tradition and the knowledge of the elders. Over. Thank you.
Thank you for that question. I would like to begin to, can I invite any one of the panelists, or Ruby or Johannes or Jackie, to share good practice about the sustainability of IPAF project, a good practice. Would you like to share, Jackie?
So let me share just 2 that come off the top of my head. One is, what we do is every time we do supervision missions to the IPAF projects is to try and connect them to their local government. Now, of course, that depends on whether they have, the indigenous group has a good relationship with them, or if we can even try and facilitate, and encourage a good relationship. So like one of our projects in Kenya that I mentioned has sort of is slowly being adopted by the county government in Kenya, because it's a project that the county is really keen on, and that's apiculture. So that's one way we have been able to address the issue of sustainability. The other is, I gave an example of the project in Ghana, who have been able to use the seed fund that they got from the IPAF to establish a facility, like a training facility to continue to train additional young people on poultry management and poultry rearing. So they are coming up with curriculums and training manuals, and they have a hatchery where they train the young people. They are making their own feed, processing it, and not just, the expectation was that they would not just use it for their own project, but they would be able to also sell it out. In that area, there's also a very high demand for eggs. So, we're hoping that access to markets will be able to sort of give them that momentum to continue. So just quickly and off the top of my head, those are the two strategies that have been used by some of the IPA projects to ensure sustainability.
Thank you very much. I see Johannes has raised your hand. Please go ahead, Johannes, from the Foro Internacional de Mujeres
Hola,
Indígenas.
buen día a todas. Respondiendo a la pregunta del compañero, creo que más que proyecto sostenible, desde FIMI estamos contribuyendo a formar organizaciones sostenibles. Entonces, un gran ejemplo que tenemos nosotras como socio implementador es, de hecho, la organización de Argentina, pues además de su proyecto, que lo están implementando de forma satisfactoria y que han sido resilientes con esta crisis de pandemia, desde FIMI, la organización ha obtenido otro ciclo de subvención a través de un programa de FIMI. Además de eso, la compañera Aileen está accediendo a un proceso de formación a través de la Escuela Global de Liderazgo. Entonces, capacitando a las organizaciones, formando a las organizaciones, fortaleciéndolas institucionalmente, formando a sus personas, estamos logrando organizaciones sostenibles porque esto va a permitir que las organizaciones puedan acceder también a otro tipo de recursos, cosa que está pasando con muchos de nuestros proyectos IPAF, así como también lo mencionaba Jackie, ¿no? También a través de FIMI podemos establecer sinergia, establecer alianzas con otro tipo de fondos para que las organizaciones, a través del trabajo que han realizado con nuestros proyectos IPAF, puedan acceder a otros fondos. Por ejemplo, muy de cerca trabajamos con el Fondo Pahuanca, donde las organizaciones socias de IPAF por América Latina también han accedido a este tipo de recursos. Entonces, cada día sí estamos trabajando, sí estamos haciendo las organizaciones más sostenibles. También hay otros ejemplos que creo que por el tiempo no puedo, pero si es de conversar la sostenibilidad de las organizaciones, creo que sería un punto muy importante porque sí lo estamos haciendo. Gracias.
Muchas gracias, Johannes. I would like to invite Francisco Pichon from IFAD to complement.
Thank you, Mirna. And thanks for this opportunity to hear about the experiences of the IPAF projects. It's very interesting, the type of initiatives that are being supported. I just wanted to make quick reference to the study, the work that we did at the end of last year with some resources that the Panama Hub got to recruit 2 consultants to look at the question of how to improve indigenous people's access of climate finance, because we were really looking at the prospect that the Green Climate Fund could provide some support to complement IPAF resources. And of course, this is easily said and done, but I think we advanced quite a lot with the support of the consultants and the discussions that we held with FILAC and also with the Green Climate Fund. And then we kind of stopped at the beginning of the pandemic. So there is need to follow up on this work, because I think the idea is very good one, and is to try to bring about a kind of a framework proposal that that the Green Climate Fund could kind of pre-approve, and that resources from this financing could be allocated to co-finance individual IPAF projects, obviously through a decision-making process that is with IFAD. And this will obviously lessen the high transaction costs that are involved in negotiating and designing and negotiating individual projects with the Green Climate Fund. And I think we had a lot of feedback from colleagues who know very well the Green Climate Fund and understand the complexities of this type of financing. But I think, you know, at IFAD, we have a new director for ECG with significant experience with the Green Climate Fund. And I think probably the time is right to try to see how we could advance with this initiative that could really help provide co-financing to the IPAF resources for the next round or the next. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Francisco. Mattia, would you like to add and complement, please?
Thank you, Mirna. Just to complement and going back to the question of sustainability. As a matter of fact, as soon as we talk about small-scale projects and we talk about grant funding, the issue of sustainability comes immediately as an immediate concern. And we saw also based on the examples that we watched and listened to today, that first of all, we need to have sustainability within the context of the projects. So we saw food security activities, income generating activities. These are activities that need to be sustained on the market. Also, another aspect that probably was mentioned by Ioannis just now, but didn't come up so strongly from the presentation, is that every single project has an element of institutional strengthening. And this is very important for the organization in order to be able to take it on the results and to continue with its own resources. But also I wanted to add that in addition to the sustainability, as far as IFAD is concerned, IPAF is an integrated program for which we need to think also about how to replicate and scale up results. And we can do that by sharing the results of IPAF within our country programs. And the results are not only in terms of physical achievements, but also in terms of knowledge generated through the implementation. And that's why when we have the design of new projects, or even the design of new country strategy in countries where we have activities focusing on indigenous peoples, this experience of this small-scale project is invaluable. It's really very, very important. So I just wanted to complement very, very quickly the good comments already provided by my colleagues. Over to you, Mirna.
Thank you, Matthias, and thank all of you for your comments. And of course, thank the panelists for your presentation and for inspiring and motivating us to continue with IPAF. IPAF is one of the instruments that between indigenous peoples and IFAD, we have been able to put in place to implement IFAD's policy to work with indigenous peoples. So we see IPAF as the component that combines with the forum that meets every 2 years, but it's a continuum of regional and consultation and dialogue at regional level with IFAD staff, especially now with the decentralization that makes it much easier to communicate with country managers and with the hubs at the regional level. But also we see that it complements with the other instruments that IFAD has to implement its operations in the different countries. So this is something that we will continue promoting from IPAF board and promoting that our local partners, IPAF implementing partners, can be really visited and monitored through the different missions, IFAD missions for other projects, that there is a participation of indigenous peoples at country level. But the other strategy that we have been promoting from IPAF board is to invite other donor agency, different type of donors, not only bilaterals, but also invite private organizations to support IPAF projects. Because of course we are not able to respond to all of the demands that we receive when we make the calls for proposals. The majority of the projects are not supported because we do not have enough resources. So we continue inviting other agencies to support this. And as Johannes and Jackie has mentioned, the other strategy is at the local level to try to use IPAF support as as an important instrument to network the local organization with other organizations at the local level and to put them in contact with their governments, with other agencies, so their good work can continue being supported. So I really want to thank each one of you for your participation. IPAF is very important. As you have been able to see, we are doing excellent work at the local level, and we invite you to follow the work that we are doing through the three organizations and through IFAD. So thank you very much. And this activity is part of our fifth global meeting, and we will end our meeting on the 15th, where we'll be sharing the synthesis of deliberation that has important recommendations for the World Food Summit. That is something that has been mentioned. And we have recommendations for IFAD, for governments, and for indigenous peoples related with indigenous peoples' participation in this summit, and the identification of indigenous peoples' food system as an important game changer if we want to address hunger in the world. So thank you very much.